Welcome to the Danny and Megan Show, broadcasting straight from Los Angeles, California. I'm your host, Megan Stewart, here with my co-host, Danny Lowe. Together, we bring you the most interesting, exciting, and trending topics of the moment. From deep dives into current events to fun and thought-provoking discussions, we've got something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into what's making waves today.
Election anxiety. Yeah, I feel it too. Up, down, polls everywhere. And don't even get me started on the headlines about Russia and Ukraine. Deep breaths, everyone. Deep dive time. We're going to tackle these things head on today, make some sense of it all. Two biggies. U.S. election predictions, those are always a wild ride. And then Russia's reaction to that attack in Kursk. Heavy stuff, so let's get into it.
Ready when you are.
All right, so 538 are like the election prediction whizzes, right? They've got this article out, and it's got some good news, bad news kind of vibe. Some polls have Harris struggling, Florida especially, always got to be Florida. But then 538's own fancy model says her chances are actually better now than before those polls. Explain it to me like I'm five, because my brain's short-circuiting a bit.
It's all about the big picture with 538, not just one poll on one day. They're like those chess players thinking 10 moves ahead. They look at the economy, historical data, even which polling firms tend to be right or wrong about certain things.
Wait, hold up. The polling firms themselves matter that much?
Oh yeah, they've all got their quirks. Like some overestimate certain types of voters or maybe historically lean one way or the other. 538 knows all this. The article even mentioned Emerson College polls they've underestimated Harris before, so 538 adjusts for that.
So it's like, don't freak out over every headline, got to see the whole trend, right?
Bingo. Like judging a movie by one scene, you need the context.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about that New York Times poll, the one in Florida? Showed Trump way ahead. Doesn't that mess up 538's whole system?
It's a blip, for sure. Polls aren't perfect. Sometimes they miss stuff. Maybe in Florida they're having trouble capturing something specific. But that same pollster did other states, Texas, Montana, and those were close to what 538 predicted.
So maybe a Florida fluke, not the whole shebang collapsing.
Exactly. One beta point doesn't mean the whole game's changed.
Okay, that calms the nerves a bit. So for all of us glued to this election, what's the big lesson from 538 so far?
Don't hit the panic button just yet. It's close, yeah. Anything could happen, but those polls, way too early to say they're the final word.
All right, so headlines saying it's over. 538's like, hold my beer. Lots more to come. Gotta love a good dose of cautious optimism, right? But speaking of things that can keep you up at night, let's pivot to that Reuters article about Russia in Ukraine. Ukraine attacks Kursk. Russia starts talking World War III, and suddenly I've got flashbacks to history class. Not the fun kind. Lavrov mentioning the whole thing spreading past Europe. Chills, man, chills.
Yeah, that's some serious talk. But Russia's done this before, using those kinds of statements as a power play. Gotta look at the strategy behind the words.
So break it down for me. What's the strategy? What are they playing at?
Well, Putin's been warning about this broader conflict for a while now, especially to try and scare off the West from getting too chummy with Ukraine. Remember back when this all kicked off? Severe consequences for anyone who interfered. That was the line.
Right, lots of tough talk, but not a ton of follow-through, at least not on that scale.
Exactly. So Lavrov's little comment could just be more of the same. Trying to make everyone sweat a bit, make the U.S. and others think twice about helping Ukraine out.
Back off or else kind of thing.
Basically, yeah. Projecting strength even if they're not actually itching for a global throwdown. It's all about perception.
Makes you think about Zelensky saying that Kursk attack was to call out a bluff. What bluff's he talking about then?
He's pointing at that gap between what Russia says and what they do. Big threats, but not a lot of action to back it up. Maybe their military isn't quite up to snuff, or maybe they're actually scared of things going too far.
So Zelensky's basically saying, put up or shut up.
Could be. It was a risky move, that attack. Testing the waters, seeing how far he can push without things blowing up, literally.
And what about us, the U.S.? The article mentioned we gave intel for that Kursk thing. That's got to be making some people nervous. Are we about to get dragged into a proxy war here?
They were careful with their words, that article. Said intel support, not that we planned the whole thing. So helping Ukraine out, yeah, but still trying to avoid a direct fight with Russia. It's a tightrope walk, that's for sure.
Between supporting an ally and, not ending the world as we know it.
Pretty much sums it up. Stakes don't get much higher than that.
And then there's this whole idea of Russia wanting to control their little corner of the world, their sphere of influence. What does that even mean for Ukraine, and why should the rest of us care?
Yeah, sphere of influence sounds like something out of a history textbook, but it's got real-world consequences. So unpack it for us. What's Russia really after here?
It's all about control for them, plain and simple. They want to keep Ukraine in their orbit, make sure they don't drift too close to the West. Think of it like if the West is a magnet, they want Ukraine to stay demagnetized,
So keeping them under their thumb, stopping them from going their own way.
basically. Especially when it comes to big stuff like joining NATO or making deals with the EU. They want a say in Ukraine's future, whether Ukraine likes it or not. And for Russia, it's not just about bossing someone around. They see it as a security thing, too.
Ah, right, because if Ukraine joins NATO, that's like putting a NATO base right on their border, which they wouldn't love. Bingo. Total nightmare scenario for them. Changes the whole power dynamic in the region. So they're trying to draw a line in the sand, say, this far, no further.
Okay, that makes sense from their perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
But why should the average person, someone who just wants to get on with their day, care about this whole Ukraine mess?
Well, besides the obvious human cost, which is just heartbreaking to think about, there's a bigger picture here. This isn't just some regional squabble. It could have global shockwaves. Imagine what happens if Russia really tightens its grip, cuts off energy supplies, throws its weight around. Suddenly your gas prices are through the roof, the global economy is in a tailspin. It matters.
Ouch, yeah, that hits a little closer to home. Suddenly, it's not just headlines anymore.
Exactly. What happens over there doesn't stay over there, unfortunately. It ripples out and we all feel it.
Okay, so deep breaths, everybody. We've got a nail-biter election, potential war simmering. It's a lot, even for a deep dive like this. What's the takeaway for folks at home, other than maybe stocking up on antacids?
Honestly, the best thing you can do is stay informed, but don't get swept up in the hype. Read from different sources. Don't just trust the headlines. Question everything. This stuff is complicated. There's no easy answers.
We've definitely seen that today, haven't we? Elections aren't just about one poll, and threats aren't always what they seem.
Exactly. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. But that's okay. That's how we grow, right?
Totally.
Oh.
Keeps life interesting, at the very least. Well, that's about all the deep diving we can handle for one day. Thanks for joining us. And remember, stay curious out there, folks. You never know what you might discover.
Thank you for tuning in to the Danny and Megan Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found our discussions insightful and entertaining. If you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share our content with your friends. Don't forget to check the links in the description for more resources related to this episode. We're back every day with fresh topics, exciting recommendations, and the latest trends in books, cinema, and news. Stay tuned for more engaging content, and we can't wait to share our next adventure with you. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.